After my first advanced meditation course, my silent retreat, as a direct result of Swamiji challenging me to sit still during meditation, and me realizing I could do it, and that causing me to think, what else could I do? I realized that I also had the capacity to form a habit. And so for the first time in my life, for more than 90 days solid, I maintained a meditation practice, and I was happy with myself. And I thought, I think I've got this locked in. But I was wrong. Then I had the opportunity for some international travel. I was working as a consultant at a young technology company, and I had a chance to sell their technology overseas in the US and Canada, and I was excited. And I jumped on the plane and I had my presentations ready, and I saw my friend who lived in Cupertino, and I went to San Diego and San Francisco and where else was it? Chicago and Toronto and Calgary, that's right, and Halifax. So a trip through the US and Canada, 5 cities in a short space of time. Now, I was staying in a different place every 2 to 3 days, and my habit dropped. And I remember meeting a very senior teacher who'd come from India, and she asked me straight when she saw me. She said, "How's your practice going?" And I said, well, it was going really well. And then I went overseas, and, it was hard to practice because there were young kids in the room, and they were there from like 6:30 a.m. And so it wasn't possible for me to do my practice, and I was moving around time zone to time zone. Fully expecting her to say, yeah, I know, it's tough, it's challenging. She didn't say that. She looked me right in the eyes, and she smiled, and she said some words which changed my life. She said, "Daniel, you and I both know that if you'd been truly committed, there could have been nothing that stopped you from your practice." That was an uncomfortable thing to hear. Uncomfortable because it was true, and uncomfortable because it wasn't the empathy I expected, and uncomfortable because it caused me to realize that I was spouting off a whole bunch of BS, excuses, to justify my lack of commitment. See, what had happened was, yes, I had a practice, but that practice was still a doing. I was doing my practice, but I wasn't being my practice. My practice wasn't part of my identity. And that's why when a disruption occurred, in this case in the form of some international travel, that just revealed back to me, yes, you have started this practice, well done, and it is not yet at the layer of your identity. In years to come, I would find there are 3 words in Sanskrit that reflect this phenomenon: Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasa. Shravana is when we hear an idea intellectually. It's a good idea to maintain a practice. Yes, meditation is good. We get some taste of it. The seed thought enters our mind at the intellect level. Then, Manana, the inconsistent application of that practice to our life. And finally, through a period of Manana, we move to Nididhyasa, where now the seed has fully sprouted, and that is now part of our DNA. Now, her words caused me to reflect that commitment was king, not events. And I realized in a heartbeat she was right. And the fact she was delivering it in such a sweet way, with obvious care for me, caring enough to challenge me, caused me to reflect and adopt a deeper standard of commitment. Now, here's the thing. Empathy is held up to be a wonderful attribute, and it is, for the most part. However, do not empathize with someone's limiting beliefs. I was looking for her to rubber stamp my limiting beliefs, and she did not rubber stamp them. She dismissed my application form for an out and said, "Nope, I care more about your growth than I do about rubber stamping your excuses. I care more about giving you the greatest joy that comes from commitment rather than the temporary joy that comes from self-justification. And from that point onwards, she helped me go for the joy of commitment over the joy of self-justification. Now here's what happened as a direct result of that decision. November 2003 of that year, I recommitted to doing my practices consistently, like I never had before. And I felt a shift come about as a result of that commitment. And the shift was that I decided for a year previously to go offline. Offline from dating, offline from relationships. See, until that time in my life, I had been seeking to be in a relationship to satisfy some unmet needs in me. And I realized that was a poor basis for a relationship. Okay, I'm needy, you're needy, let's get together and be needy together. How's that going to look? How's that going to work out? Two people with needs of each other, looking to see what they can get. So I decided that I wouldn't enter into another relationship until I was ready to see what I could give. And after a month of doing my practices regularly, I felt a shift. And I just woke up one morning and I felt, I'm ready to give. I'm ready to have a relationship with a woman for an entirely different reason, which is that I feel full and I'm happy not being in a relationship. And yet I feel I want to give. I feel joyful and I'd love to share that joy. Totally different spirit. And I went online. Findsomeone.co.nz. Back in the days before Tinder and all these apps and iPhones, it was dating websites, which were in their early days. It wasn't such a done thing for the mainstream. I'd given them a go a year and a half ago with terrible results and thought dating sites clearly don't work. What I was to discover was it wasn't the form that was the problem, it was the vehicle. It wasn't the road that was the problem, it was the vehicle driving on it which was faulty, which had the engine of what can I get, not what can I give. New engine, new vehicle, new spirit of intention, new result. Within days, Claire messaged me, had seen my profile, said let's meet. I looked at her profile, I said yes let's. We met up, we were together for 3 hours, on what was supposed to be a 1-hour date. 2 months later, she was living with me. Within 2 years, we were married. A short time after we had our first child. We've been together now for 16 years. And that relationship has completely redefined everything about what I believed relationships to be. See, it's so easy to think you know what relationships are based on who you are and what you're bringing to a relationship. And all because of that one teacher. There'd been a cascading series of events. She questioned my commitment. I responded to the challenge and formed a commitment. As a result of that commitment, I became capable of being committed to being the best version of me in a relationship and committed to give in a relationship. As a result of that, I went back online with a new intention. Because of that new intention, it sprouted very fast, plus the grace that came with the practice in the manifest form of someone who has been a joy to be with for 16 years. Someone who has completely redefined everything I believed about what it was to be in relationship. Someone who I still feel totally in love with as much as I did the day that I first fell in love, which was the day I first met her. So, commitment is a powerful force. Until you're committed, energy gets dissipated. The moment you're committed to something, some practice, some cause, someone, then everything becomes clear. And that energy which was going into deciding whether to commit can now go into the fruits. It's as if It's the difference between having a whole lot of seeds in the pocket going, which one do I plant? Versus I'm planting this one here now in this soil, done, water it, nurture it, and then spending the energy growing the seed rather than wondering which seed to plant. All happened from one teacher's feedback. Commitment changes the trajectory of a life.